I've enjoyed life.
And the experience.
And the experiences.
Okay, Bob.
Okay, here we go. I'm going to slate this thing. The following interview is with Irwin Mitschek. It was conducted on December 4th, 1986 at the Sheraton Waikiki Hotel at about 6:45 in the evening. Mr. Mitschek lives now in Baldwin Park, California. My name is Bart Fredo. I'm doing the interview, and also with us is Dan Martinez, who is a historian with the National Park Service. Let me start off by asking you to tell us your name and where you were from back in 1941.
Well, my name is Irwin Mitschek, and originally I joined the Navy in Chicago.
What year was that?
In 1940.
And when did you come to Hawaii?
Well, I joined the ship in Bremerton in June of 1940, and we were up there for a 3-month overhaul. Then the ship went its way down towards San Diego, and we came out here, I think it must have been about October of 1940.
And what ship was that?
The U.S.S. Oklahoma.
What was your job aboard?
Well, I was a seaman at the time, which means you scrub the decks and you do your mess cooking and whatever chores that they decide to give you.
Let's go back to the morning of the attack. Before it started, what are you doing?
I was sleeping. Like I said in my resume, the dawn patrol did not wake me up that morning.
What's the dawn patrol?
Well, they used to go at dawn. They flew out of Hickam, and they came over Battleship Row. But that morning, no noise. Therefore, I slept in. And I was finally awakened by the boatswain mate, and he asked me, he says, "Hey, sleeping beauty, you going to stay here all day?" Well, I said, no. Well, I proceeded to get dressed, and just about that time, General Quarters went. And I thank the good Lord that we had all these training missions every time we went on patrol. We had drill after drill after drill. So when the gong went off, I mean, it was just routine to head for your battle station.
Where was that?
I was on the anti-aircraft battery on the boat deck, starboard side. And we were down on main deck, then we had the casemate deck. There were casemate guns. And I went up the ladder, and as I was coming out of the hatch, the bullets were tearing up the teakwood deck. Well, I knew right then and there, hey, this is no drill. I manned my station, took the phones out. I was talking on the gun, put my phones on, relayed the messages from the control officer. All of a sudden, he passed the word, secure all guns and abandon ship. Well, from force of habit, I took my phones up, wrapped them up, coiled them, and put them back in the box that was on the splinter ledge of the gun.
How long was it from the time you heard General Quarters until the time you were able to get to your battle station?
Oh, I'd say within a minute, minute and a half, or less.
And how long from the time you were at your station till the time you heard ceasefire and abandon ship?
It didn't, I don't know how long, but it wasn't too long.
During that period, what did you see and hear?
Well, all I heard was range this, range that, but we couldn't range anything because all the ammunition was down below deck.
Were people trying to get it up topside?
Well, yes, they were, but then they came on the planes came on the port side, hit the ship there, and of course we had blister ledges, which normally would be closed, but having come in, they aired them out and they were open. Therefore, when the torpedoes went through the blister ledge, it caused them to fill up, and that's what caused it to sink.
These blisters were a sort of a protective device to protect the hull against torpedoes.
Right.
And these were, in effect, open, so the torpedoes came right in. Did you see the attacking planes at that point, when you were at your battle station?
No. They were over on the other side, on the port side of it.
And you were on
nothing came in between us and the Maryland.
So you're on the starboard side, so you're right next to the battleship Maryland.
Right.
So you didn't, your weapon was not fired at all at that point?
No, no way.
And you had no ammo anyway?
No, that's for sure.
Tell us about what happened when you got the call to abandon ship.
Well, like I said, I secured my gun, and I went down on the boat deck, And there was a 2-inch hawser between the Oklahoma and the Maryland. That's how we were tied up together. And I decided, well, hey, I got to get off of here. So I started to climb hand over hand, you know, like Tarzan does. Well, I got about halfway across, and I stopped, took my shoes off.
Kicked them off.
Yeah, and as I turned around, there were 5 people behind me doing the same thing. And I got within about, oh, it must have been about 15 feet of the Maryland, and the fella cut the line.
On the Maryland end?
On the Maryland. Well, he did that so that we, the Oklahoma, wouldn't pull them along with us.
In other words, at this point, the Oklahoma is turning
It was
over.
pretty well, yeah, leaning toward the port. Well, like I say, the man cut the line, and I hit the water, and as I treaded my way back up out of the water, I heard ching, 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 ching above my head, and as my head did come above water, here's the 0 going out the other side.
You saw it?
I saw it.
And the bullets?
I didn't get hit, thank God.
How close did they come?
Oh, I'd say within about 18 inches.
Of
2
your
feet.
of your head?
Yeah.
Was the water on fire?
No, but there was a lot of oil.
How many guys are in the water with you?
Oh, heck, I don't recall how many. They had these boats, Liberty boats, were going in between picking up people. And the one picked me up, and they told me to go on to Maryland. And after I got on to Maryland, I was full of oil. The man said, well, hit the laundry, change clothes. Well, fortunately, they had just done the laundry. There were a lot of white clothes, and they wiped all the oil off me, put on new clothes, and the man says, well, hit the line and help pass the ammunition. So I got in line and helped pass the ammunition to the 20 millimeter.
Firing at the attacking planes?
They did fire. The Maryland did fire.
Did you see any of the attacking planes hit at that point?
No.
You could see the planes?
Well, I could look out the hatch and see the planes going by that they were aiming at.
Did you, once you were aboard the Maryland, did you have any occasion to be able to look back and see the Oklahoma?
No, I didn't see the Oklahoma until after I got over on Fort Allen. See, we helped, and the attack stopped momentarily. So they told all the Oklahoma sailors to go over to Fort Allen.
And how did you get over there? Walk across a gangplank or something?
They put a plank down, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there, I got called, the ambulance was coming by, and the guy says, come on, help me. So we went around to pick up people that had gotten wounded. And I just put one guy into the meat wagon, as we call him, closed the door, and there was a crash. When we got to the hospital, they had to pry the door open because the shrapnel hit it. And here I was inside. Luckily, I didn't get hit.
So a bomb went off outside the ambulance while you were inside?
Yeah.
Moments
I don't know how
before?
far away it was, but the shrapnel dented the door so they couldn't open it. They had to open it with a crowbar.
It would have dented Mitschek.
It would have got me if I'd have been standing there pushing the guy in, you know?
So what happened to you? You went to the infirmary or the hospital or
Well,
sick
we went
bay?
to the hospital, and we rolled bandages for a while. And after that, they had to fill in sandbags to build them placements, you know. And after that, they transferred me over to the receiving ship where I got assigned duty as seaman guard. And the duty there was at the cold storage plants, of all places to be, where the food is, you know.
When did you get your first chance to look back at the Oklahoma that day?
Well, after I got over on the Fort Allen, when we walked off the ship.
You looked back.
Yeah, well, we were forward of the Maryland, and we could see it.
What'd you see?
I saw the bottom of her, one of the keel plates sticking up.
Did you have to walk that bow as the ship was capsizing?
No.
You just grabbed a hold of
No.
this line.
Well, I see Dan had a picture there of a battleship. Is it the Arizona that you have here?
No, it's the Oklahoma.
Well, okay. Now, may I see that in a minute? And I'll show you. See, here are the blister ledges along here. Now, this is the boat deck up here. Then your main deck is down here. And I climbed across the hawser to the Maryland there. And I didn't see her until after we got off the Maryland. We went off on the bow, and I walked over, and all I saw was the bottom of the ship.
What feelings did you have when you were standing on Ford Island and you looked back at your ship and saw it over?
Well, at the time, it didn't faze me, you know, because we were kept busy and our minds were occupied with doing other things. It wasn't until about 96 hours later that it hit me. The shock finally caught up with me.
Took that long?
Yeah. Well, like I say, we were kept busy and kept our minds off of what had happened.
And when the shock hit?
That's it. That was, well, you've probably seen people trying to shake alcohol or crack now. Well, that's the feeling I had. I was just shivering like a man with the DTs until it was all over with.
How long did it last?
Oh, I'd say about 15 minutes. But after that, it was all over with and no more.
Did you see the crew of the Oklahoma take a lot of casualties?
No, no. That was all, well, those that did get out, they cut the hole in the bottom of it. And there were very few that came out through that hole.
Did you see that happen?
What, cutting the hole out? No, no, I was over Seaman Guard then over by the receiving station.
What one thing stands out in your mind more vividly than anything else about that day?
Well, the only thing I can think of, no dawn patrol. If we'd have had that up, it probably wouldn't have happened.
The American planes out of Hickam,
We're not up in the air.
did you fellows talk about that day or subsequently?
Well, later on when we got together, we talked about it, but it just, a lot of people beside myself said that the dawn patrol should have went up. Why? We don't know. According to what we heard, no, this is off the record, there was a big splash, big officers' party at the Royal Hawaiian Saturday night. So therefore, you know, your officers, your pilots and everybody having a good time.
How long did you stay in Hawaii after the attack?
Well, let's see. I got transferred to a ship, and I broke my leg aboard ship. They sent me to the hospital, and then I was attached to the ship till February. We were going back and forth between Johnson Island, Palmyra, Christmas Island. We were more or less a supply ship.
What's the name of it?
The U.S.S. Kaula.
So after that duty, when did you eventually leave the islands?
Well, after the ship, I got transferred to shore duty at NAS Barbers Point, and I finally left in August of '45.
So you spent the whole war here, just about.
Almost, yeah.
Were you very affected by martial law? Did it affect your life very much?
No. No. Of course, being out at Barbers Point, having the civilians aboard as employees, I didn't have to come into town. I could get a pass and stay there overnight, come back to work in the morning with them, and there was entertainment going on there.
What did you do when you came into town? Where'd you go?
Oh, mostly Hotel Street. I hit the bars and, you know, and a few places of pleasure.
Remember the names of any of those bars?
Well, W.S.S. for one, it's still here, I know that. Matter of fact, that was one of the main ones I frequented.
Remember anything in Waikiki that you went to?
Well, I remember they had the breakers out here, which I think they built in 42 or 43, because I was there at the original commissioning of it, as we call it.
What did you like to eat at W.S.S.?
Let me ask him, because he doesn't know about looking. What did you like to do when you were at W.S.S.? Would you eat and...
Well, I'd go upstairs and eat, and then after that go down to the bar and chat with Fatso, the bouncer. The reason we call him Fatso, you remember the cartoon Smiling Jack? Okay, now he was rotundant, and the buttons would pop off, the chicken being there and everything. That's why we called him Fatso. And when I got back for the 25th anniversary, I went to Wolfat's and asked Mr. Wolfat himself, the owner, "Where's Fatso?" He said, "No more, he's gone." I said, "Oh, shucks, there goes the best part of my life."
Did you have occasion when you came back for the 25th anniversary to see anybody else you knew back when?
Oh, yeah, I called up this lady that was the secretary for my commanding officer, and she was still employed at Barbers Point. And I says, "Can I go out to the base?" And she says, "Yeah." She says, "When do you want to go?" I said, "Well, we have free time such and such a day. I don't remember the date." She says, "All right, I'll pick you up and we'll go out there." And I thought I was an admiral or something, the greeting I got out.
When you came back for the 25th anniversary of the attack, did you run into any people that you knew back then?
Well, yes, I run into people at Wolfat's restaurant and bar, and I called the civilian employee that we had, called her, and
Who was she now?
Alice Yee was her name.
And what did she do back when you knew her?
She was secretary for the civil engineering officer.
This is out at Barbers Point Naval Air
Out
Station.
at Barbers Point Naval Air, yeah. So she made arrangements for me to go back out to Barbers Point, and I got treated royally. I thought I was an admiral or something, you know. Having been one of the original plank owners, having put the station in commission, I'll tell you, I still don't believe that the treatment that I got. But anyway.
Commanding officer came out and
Oh, yeah, yeah.
the works.
And I showed my youngsters and my wife the office I worked in, and my desk was there. So I asked Alice, I said, "You sure this is my desk?" She said, "Well, what do you mean?" I said, "When I left, it was olive green." I said, "It's Battleship gray now." Well, what I'd done when I originally got the furniture, I took the tray out, and I inscribed my name and date, and put it back in there. This was on the bottom side.
Right.
So when I pulled it out and turned it over, and I said, "Son, see, this is my desk," and his eyes just went boing.
The commanding officer?
No, my son. He was 8 years old. You know how kids are impressive.
And he may not have believed everything you were telling him, but
Yeah,
now he
but
was.
he did then.
Talk about Liberty when you'd go into Honolulu, about the clubs.
Well, there were several clubs. I mean, there were a few on Hotel Street, and the majority of them were over on River Street.
Remember any names?
Well, the only one I remember was on Hotel Street, the Congress Hotel, they call it.
The Congress Hotel.
Yeah, the Congress, or rooms, whichever you want to use.
Remember any names from that place?
No, they had a terrific turnover. But anyway, I remember the shooting gallery that this lady had on Hotel Street. She was an old-timer, boy, I'll tell you. As a matter of fact, there was an article in Life magazine on her.
Do you remember her name?
No. Oh, what was it? Wait. I think her name was Rosie. I'm not sure, but that's what they called her.
Was Hotel Street as rowdy as we are led to believe in James Jones' book, From Here to Eternity? Is it a pretty rowdy place?
It depended on the individual. Now, I mean, if you go into town looking for trouble, boom, you get it. Now, if you go into town and mind your own business, you have a beautiful liberty. And like I say, I lived through it. So apparently I must have minded my own business.
Some people who lived through the attack, even to this day, have some bad feelings about Japan and about Japanese. How are your feelings? What do you feel?
I have no animosity. I mean, after all, they had a job to do. They're servicemen. They were under orders. And we had a job to do after the war, we were under orders. So any military man, if he's under orders, he's going to do what he's told.
Any of your shipmates or fellow survivors that you have a chance to talk to from time to time, do they still harbor these very negative feelings?
That's one or two that I know of do. But like I say, I got over it. Matter of fact, when I was stationed out at Barber's Point, I had a Japanese laundry lady. And I used to get my laundry done for $5 a month.
Did knowing her change your attitude in any way towards the enemy, the Japanese, the people from Japan?
No. And then when they got the 442nd together, I knew some of the boys that went in there from here.
Did you, though, differentiate between American Japanese and Japanese nationals back then?
No, as a matter of fact, I never thought of anything about it.
Had you ever had a chance to talk to anybody from Japan who was in the war?
No, no.
Would you like to? How would you feel about meeting, for example, one of the Japanese pilots who took part in the attack?
I wouldn't mind talking to the man. Like I say, I have no hard feelings.
Do you know what you'd ask? What would you want to know?
Well, offhand, I don't know. I can't tell you. See?
You played a part in a very important event in history.
Mm-hmm.
Does the fact that you did, has that affected your life in any way?
No. Mm-mm.
Has it caused a scar or anything like that, that caused you sleepless nights or bad dreams or anything like that?
Like I say, after that shock wave I had, it was all over with then. I mean, there's no more trauma or anything.
Amazing. No dreams.
No dreams.
If you had the power to change history so that Irwin Mitschek was not on Oahu on December 7th, would you change history?
No, I wouldn't change a thing.
Why?
Well, I'd like to live it over, but I'd probably do different things than I did that day. You know what I mean?
I'm not quite sure I do. What would you have done differently?
Well, I probably wouldn't have slept in.
I take it, though, that you're proud of having been there that day.
Oh, you bet your life. Matter of fact, I was shopping this afternoon and going through Woolworth's, and this gentleman come up and he says, "Were you on the Oklahoma?" I says, "Yes, sir, I was." He says, "Well, I shake your hand proudly," and then he walked on. I don't know who he was, just, you know.
Do you get a lot of that when you come back for your reunions?
Not here. Well, we have a U.S.S. Oklahoma Association, and we have annual reunions throughout the country. And then when we get here, we get together, have a little beer bust or whatever.
How many of you fellas from the Okie are still around?
Well, let's see. At the 41st reunion, there were 26 of us that made it.
Small select group.
Yeah. And there was one of them, a fellow named Davenport. He was the first man that they pulled out of the hall.
From the hall?
From the hall, yeah. Did you interview him?
Not yet.
No.
Ask him if he lost any friends.
Oh, yeah. Were any of your close friends lost in the attack?
Yeah. I was writing to this one fellow's sister. Well, he happened to be up in the controls, and I haven't seen him since. As a matter of fact, I couldn't even write his sister that he had died during the attack.
What was his name?
Billy Turner.
Where is he from?
He was from Enid, Oklahoma.
An Okie on the Okie.
Yeah.
And you knew his sister and you were...
Well, I was corresponding with her, you know. And like I say, after it was over with, I'd sit down, start a letter, get about a sentence or two, and crumble it up, and I never did notify her that. Matter of fact, quit writing to her, let's put it that way.
Any of your other friends lost that day?
Well, there's the fellows in my division But he was the only one I was close to, you know, kind of buddies with. And that's about all I know from there.
Thank you.
Hey, it's a pleasure.
It was. Thank you very much.